I think on your end in the upper corner, it will say live preparing.
No. There we go.
Now it says we are streaming live on Facebook. So happy Sunday, everybody. This is another Otherworldly Arts Collective Artist Conversation. And tonight we have two people that you guys can see. But the artist that we're speaking with today is Mike Menasco, which if you have had a chance to kind of look through his art or you know who he has some fabulous like colored pencils that is behind him right now. And then we also have John, who is another member of the Otherworldly Arts Collective. He's going to be my assistant. And he will probably start doing some of the live streaming on his own too. So, Mike, we're just going to pretend that nobody knows who you are on this planet.
Good.
So, pretend that you're talking to space aliens, and can you introduce yourself and what kind of artwork you do, and like maybe a little bit about your background?
Wow. Okay. I'm Mike Menasco. I'm a visual artist. I work primarily in colored pencils, but I do acrylics and oils and pretty much anything else I can get my hands on. I own Artistic Indulgence with my wife, Irene. She's the business side of it. I'm the operator. We do custom framing and we have an art gallery. And that's about it.
So, how did you start doing art? When did you start doing art?
When did I start doing art? I think the earliest I can remember is probably when I was about 7.
Okay.
Got the crayons and drawing of the circus. I always did the 3-ring circus. I didn't really get into it seriously until I was probably about 10.
Okay.
I started with pen and ink. Then I eventually moved on to colored pencils. And then probably later on, 12, 13, 14, I started in with acrylics. And I was pretty much primarily an acrylic artist my whole life until I was tired of waiting to get a piece done that took 6 months to a year in acrylics. And I didn't want to do that anymore. I wanted more or less instant gratification. So I picked back up the colored pencils, and they were going a little quick, but now today they take anywhere from 3 to 9 months. So I'm back where I started, just a different medium. So I've been doing art my whole life.
So we've had some conversations in like doing these that we go back and forth about talking about like self-taught versus like formal training. Yep. And stuff. And like I know that you are self-taught.
Yeah, I'm pretty much completely self-taught. Yeah, lack of about a year in college that was not too wonderful, but other than that, yeah, 100% self-taught.
So when you are a self-taught artist, like how did you do it? I know that sounds like kind of like a really broad question because you're like, I did it, you know?
Yeah, everybody gets on to me when I just say, just do it. You just do it. So.
But how did you learn your materials? Like what interested you in what you were doing? You know what I mean? Like.
I just, God, I hate to say it. I just did it. I would just, I picked them up and I would just go for it. My mom took me to a couple classes here and there. I did pastels and stuff like that, but it was never really a how-to. They were always, okay, grab the picture out of the magazine and copy it, which, yeah, at the time it probably helped me, but it was never creating my own art. So yeah, I would just trial and error, 100%. I draw exclusively on black gessoed museum board. I can't draw on white paper or board. I don't know what it is. I love the look of everybody else's who does it on white, but I can't. It just looks terrible to me. It looks like a crayon drawing. So it took me 15 years on and off, well, not 15 years, probably about 10, 11 years on and off to figure out this gesso on museum board process that now I could tell you in 20 seconds, but that's what it is being self-taught. When I was going through my earlier years, we didn't have YouTube or anything else like that. It was magazines you could look at, but they were always high-end professional artists. They had their progression, but it was like, that's nowhere near I am. But you go through it and you'd pick up what you could, but you just do it.
Would you say there was any kind of methodology that was more inspirational or more educational than any of the other things? Like, was it books? Was it magazines? Was it?
It was mainly books, artist books. Michael Whelan, H.R. Giger. It was basically just taking apart visually what they do. Whether or not it was right or wrong, it's just what I saw of how they put into it. And I'd pretty much grab anything that showed how-tos and try and apply it to what I was doing. But yeah, 99% of it is just sitting down and creating all the time and learning, basically teaching yourself, learning, well, that didn't work, so I'm going to need to figure out how to do that, and just keep doing it and plowing through it until it hit and you figured it out. And I'm still learning I'm what, 51, and I'm still, I got about 8 years ago, I did a native portrait piece that I learned on that enough, and it just basically changed all my natives from that time on. And I look back at everything before that, I won't say it wasn't good for me, but I mean, you could just tell that it was different and it wasn't as good. So yeah, it's just, and plus you push yourself. You can sit down and say, I want to change my technique up. I want to really sort of reteach myself how to see. And you start looking at things, you slow down, you visualize what you need to do, and you'll get better.
So out of curiosity, what is your work week like as an artist? Like, how often are you drawing and creating and working through that process?
Well, the good thing, because I do framing, I'm working every day. We work Tuesday through Saturday. And I'm creating in that aspect. People bring something in, they want a unique frame, I'm creating it that way. But as far as my art, my colored pencil pieces, I don't draw every day. I wish I could, but obviously with family and a business, you can't always do that. You get motivated throughout the day, you get home and you're like, I don't want to do that crap now. And usually, it's at the dining room table, and, oh, do you want to watch a movie? Okay, so you sort of got to push yourself sometimes. But, on average, I'm drawing, at least 3 days a week, not all day, 2 hours here, 3 hours here, an hour here, and because I have commissions, I have to sort of do that. I have to push myself to work on it. But again, my clients know that it's going to take a while because I'm not focused on only their work. Usually I can have up to 5 commissions at one time going. So they may see something online. It's like, well, that's not my work that you're supposed to be working on, well, that's just how it is, so it's just, but probably a couple of times a week.
Now, to be clear, we discussed this a little earlier, but this art gig is not what you do to pay the bills. It's what you do to kind of complete your life. And
Yes. Yeah, I have to do it. I'm an artist. I have to, even if I didn't make any money at all on this, I have to create art. But it enhances it helps me pay the bills. The framing job, and more than, my wife's job, but on the side, then I have a little extras here and there with my art. But I always have to create art, no matter if it makes, sometimes I stop a paid commission right in the middle because I have to get this idea out of my head. That's where most of these came from, because these are my personal creations, I guess you would say. They're not commissions. So I would stop a commission right in its track for a week or two just to pump out something that I have to get out of my head, or I'm not going to be able to focus on anything else. So
Talk about commissions for a while. There are artists that make money doing events, selling merchandise. You would say maybe commissions are part of your bread and butter.
yeah, commissions are a big part. I'd probably say out of all of my work, that's probably 75% of the work that I do produce is commissions. And I don't, if you commission me, you usually get more than you pay for one. I may come back to, if you commission 11 by 14 and want 4,000 sharks in it, me as an artist, I'm like, I don't want to paint that small detail. I want to make it easier for me. So you could say take a hit, but I don't look at it like that. I'm going to give you something twice as big so I can put more detail in it. And it's going to make my life easier because it's easier to draw than an inch long shark, So you end up getting more, plus we frame it. So you're not paying for the frame, museum quality frame, whole 9 yards. That's not part of the price. I sell my art. So yeah, commissions are a big thing, but people know that if you see my work, you're going to get me, my subject style. I may take other ideas. Like I mentioned, I'm doing a guy riding a Pegasus fighting a megalodon.
That's amazing.
It's an awesome idea. And the thing is he's going to blow it up and put it on the side of his van, like 10 foot long, which is great. But would I ever done that for one of my original pieces? Probably not. But that's what's cool about it. And, he knows my paleo work and he knows my fantasy work, and he sort of put it all together. And so I'm okay with it.
So I know, and I promise I'll start showing artwork in a second.
No, you're fine.
I know that you have like a couple different subject veins that you definitely follow. One is the paleo stuff, and then other commission based things, and then you also have this very dark, like kind of like heavy metal-esque, like the one that's kind of behind you, maybe like a little bit in the mythology, like dark folklore. And then you also have this like child series, which are
like psychotics, children. Yeah.
So can you just talk about each one of some of your major veins and why you kind of go down those paths?
I will draw pretty much whatever's of interest to me. And yes, you're right. Those are my three. Is it three? Four? Probably three. I can't count right now. Main styles. I do paleo work. I have my Native Americans that I have been incorporating fossil work in with them. And then I have my horror stuff. I think out of all of them, the horror just really grabs me. I don't know why. I like all that crap. But the child paintings, I don't know, like this one. If you've seen that one.
So this one, just for people that know, it won an award, which you're gonna have to forgive me. I believe which award was it?
It was really cool because the title of it was The Best Execution.
That's what it was.
Well, I obviously referred it to execution, not how well I did. But yeah, no, I don't know where the hell they come from. Warped mind, But with that one, I always thought it would be cool because we all grew up. I think I could say we all so far with those plastic Halloween pumpkins that you get all the candy in and everything. And I'm like, God, it just looks like a head. I always wish I could see a head with that, with, you know, I put the candy in the top. Well, that's where it came from. And I always wanted to do the Gods and Monsters show. I did it a long time ago when somebody else was running it. And then I haven't been able to do it since because of commissions. And I'm like, I have to do this piece. Well, I got at the time, my 9-year-old son out on our walkway in his shorts in the dead of winter. Well, that wasn't dead of winter. It was, I think it's around September or something like that, or well, October. And you know, I put fake blood all over his legs, you know, and he's like, "What the hell are you doing to me, Dad?" You know, and I'm like, just stand there, you know, and I just took a snapshot of him, and it just grew from there, you know. And then after that, I wanted to do, well, you have to be fair. I did the little boy. Now I have to do the little girl, and then that's where this one came on.
I love that so much.
And again, sort of going back on how I was saying, you can always learn and you can always change or up your execution, you know, up your ideas. I'm trying to look more into unique perspectives with my work. When I first did the little girl, a sketch, it was just a side view. You're looking at it straight on. Cool idea, but yeah, nobody's going to remember that. So then I started thinking, and I wanted to draw yourself in and draw the viewer in and have it a little more personal. So I did the down view. Of course, a 11-year-old boy can no longer pose as like a 6-year-old little girl.
Right.
You know, so, but I gave him the butcher knife and I set him on his knees and I got above him, you know, took a snapshot, and that's in our bathroom. And I just had to, you know, and I incorporated the creepy little stuffed animals, 2 of them. One is from my wife's childhood, that psychotic looking Santa. And then I had that terrible looking monkey. So I had to put those in there. But she is the little girl sister of this one running up the path. So it's sort of like a prequel on, you know, what happened, where did he get, which way is up? I don't even know, my damn heart. Okay, it's like, here's him standing in the corner
Nice.
with the hook. And, you know, it's called And They Whispered Do It. You know, that's the title of it. So it's sort of like, where did the head come from in this one? You know, so that's sort of like the prequel, I guess you would say. So I don't know, making innocent people, kids, turning them into doing something completely horrific that you would never think of is just terrifying to me. So that's just, you know, things come up. I'll hear a music lyric or something, and I'll just start going off on a tangent, and it'll come from that, and I'll just work it. And sometimes they don't come out. I have a whole list in my head and some of the things have been on the list have been with me for 10 years. And I whittle it down here and there. Some never get drawn. Other ones come from that and they just get worked on. And if I really if I keep thinking about it, like over about a week, then I know, okay, I'm going to do it. So, and that's where they usually come from. And just like those 2, those stopped a commission dead in its tracks so I could pump it out, you know, so.
I think there's something about like okay, with Gods and Monsters, it is like a Halloween flavored show for the most part. And it runs in like fear, you know what I mean? Like it runs in like a lot of storytelling, and I think that there's so many of us when we do Gods and Monsters that like we were Halloween babies, you know, like that's an important time.
Oh yeah.
Like in our lives, we're like, you know, you wonder how like rock music and like the goth and emo generation happened. Well, you know, we had this beautiful celebration once a year where we're like makeup, like do everything that you can together. And I just like, for a lot of the parents that are artists and parents, like hearing stories like that is lovely, because like, you know, it's your support system around you that also helps you be an artist, you know? And like, even moving further outside of that is like artists need other artists. And then, I hope that your son is he also interested in art?
No, not at all.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I know, but maybe he is. I don't know. He was for a while. In fact, he would outsell both of me and my wife during World for the last 4 years in a row. I mean, and it's just like, what the hell, kid? But I did tell him, I'm like, the cuteness is wearing off. Now you have to produce quality artwork, because people buy it. Oh, look, it's how cute. But I mean, he was selling these things for 25 bucks. Well, about anywhere between $5 and $20 a piece, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? I was torn between being proud or being pissed off and want to just give up all my work altogether. It's just like, what the hell, and he's like drawing little farting unicorns and stuff like that. And I can't even think right now they were great. They were just great, but people were buying it. He would sell out. And I'm just like, maybe it's me. Maybe I don't think I pushed it on him at all. So I don't know, but maybe he's like, well, he does it, so I'm not going to do it. Who knows? Maybe he may come back around. As long as he's happy, I don't care what he does. So, but yeah, speaking on the whole Halloween generations, or us having Halloween is important and everything. I grew up, I was probably anywhere between 5 and 9, and you'd be in the living room with the lights off, watching The Exorcist or whatever. And I blame half of the crap on my dad, because he would sit in the dining room in the dark. We wouldn't know he was there. He would wait for the scary part in the story, and he would have my mom's pots and pans, and he would come in
No.
there, da, 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 and scare the living shit out of us. And so I'm sure that has some kind of warped me somehow, into recreating things like this. But yeah, no, I think it's ingrained in us as far as the horror and the Halloween and all that. So different generation.
I'm totally gonna send you a video later of this dad that he ruins his son's sleepover by bringing a chainsaw in while everyone's asleep at 2 a.m.
I can relate to that. Yeah, it wasn't a chainsaw, but yes, I can relate to that.
And I'm gonna start sharing some of the artwork that you have so people have an idea.
Sure.
And I should say that Mike is definitely like not safe for work before I get too far.
True. Usually not, I mean.
Hey, people commission you though. It's their fault too.
That's right. I'll take their damn money. I'll paint whatever you got.
And, so this was the one that he was holding up previously.
Yeah, a lot of these, I started a while back, I don't know, a few, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. I would never show anything before it was done. I don't know. I just thought, the whole shock value and all that. Well, somebody once asked me what my progression was, and I did progression shots, and now I can't get off of that. Every time I finish a drawing session, I take a picture and post it, but I look at it as it keeps my art out there. It keeps people interested. If you hate it, unfriend me. I don't care. But at least it keeps it out there, and maybe that one person walking by sees something interesting that maybe wants a commission or something, then they'll hit me up. So, but a lot of those are progress pieces.
So we talked about this before tonight, is that, like I was telling you, that there's sometimes stigma surrounded by colored pencil, like as a media. And you were telling me an interesting story that for the longest time, colored pencil drawings were called paintings.
Yeah, by a lot of colored pencil artists, they still are. I think it comes from the, sort of like my style. You give it a painterly effect. You put so many layers on it, it looks like paint. And I don't know if it's out of the stigma of the fact that painting is taken more seriously than colored pencil, or if it's just a, because I used to call it painting, but that was lack of a better term. I guess that was just my laziness. I always called what I was doing, this is my painting. But now I'm to the point to where, forget that. I'm not doing the colored pencil world any justice by calling it a painting. I'm going to call it a drawing. And then when they freak out, and hopefully, and if they think, what do you mean? It looks like a painting. Well, then that way I can educate them that no, it's colored pencil.
So just for my one thing that I'm thinking of, just because that like I don't have a lot of experience with colored pencil and stuff, but like, I do drawing and stuff, and like with drawing and stuff, it's very easy to erase and manage, depending on what kind of, materials, like it's all about that. So when you start building these colored pencils, like for me, it's really hard, like as also somebody who paints, to be like, well, what happens if you mess up? Like how do you relayer everything, like in these colored pencils to like, because it like I'm looking at those progress shots and it looks like you're a machine.
I don't know about that, but you just, or you erase it. I mean, you just do it, just like I always said. But
Like,
a lot of people say, it is true. A lot of people have problems with erasing colored pencils. I don't know if it goes back to just like that. That's the Pegasus that I'm working on. You see the black background, that's gessoed white board. It's 8-ply museum board that we use in framing, but it's real thick, and I just black gesso it just because the gesso takes the pencil better. I can't get real bright colors, so all my originals are sort of muted, but to me that's just gives the atmosphere of it. When I make prints, I up it a little bit, just like the one you're seeing there on the screen. I up the colors a little bit. People tend to like that more, but that's just prints. But as far as, I don't know if it lends to my board, or I use a battery operated eraser, and I can erase 9 layers of colored pencil down to the board and redraw right over it. So I
have never seen a battery operated eraser. What is this?
Oh no, you need to go. Yeah, you need to get one. It has a battery in it and has a little button and it spins. It's a white little eraser, and you can change out the eraser nibs. They're like $9.
I'm adding this to my Christmas list right now.
Yeah, no, it's like $9. It's the greatest thing. And it's so great that my 11-year-old steals it and wants to erase. Can I use the eraser? Well, whatever. It's just like, don't tear it up. But yeah, no, you can erase quite a bit. Now, having said all that, you're probably going to have all these people come back and say, no, you can't, because you see it on the white background. I don't draw on white. So that may lend something to the fact that I can and you can't. So there. So, but no, you can do it.
So like even this one with the sharks, like this is on a black background.
Yes.
So a lot of your paleo and I'm going to say like maybe like natural science leaning stuff, like you blow me away, Mike. Like it's just,
thank you.
Like this is,
well, see,
so amazing.
No, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but like this one, this is a commission, and the guy, he hunts shark's teeth, fossilized shark's teeth in, I want to say Georgia, and he wanted to show a work that showed every kind of shark teeth that he finds in that area. So I drew those fossil sharks in one piece. That's sort of where those type of commissions come from. So, and that's the one that, he wanted 11 by 14, and I'm like, no, I can't. No. So he ended up getting like a 19 by 24. So at the same price. So not that that means everybody needs to hit me up thinking they'll get something huge, but.
Right. Here, let me see if I can find, we'll go back to that one.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry, there's you guys should totally follow Mike on Instagram and on Facebook. So like even this. So like this is what I think is always fascinating because like I do have like formal art training and like, you know, I was definitely trained where it's like classics, classics, classics. You draw from life or you draw nothing. And it's like, well, it's really hard when all I want to draw
Boy,
is unicorns. You know what I mean?
if we
Like
could only
unicorns
draw
don't
from
exist.
life, you know.
So how did you start like when you've been doing the dinosaurs and like things that like are so fantastical, but like your light and color is so strong and like you can't take photographs of this. So like how are you even setting these up?
A whole hell of a lot of imagination. Um, I've been chastised is not a word, the right word, and I guess critiqued on my palette. I have no idea where it comes from. That's, you know, it's not plein air. So obviously you're not getting natural colors, but that's just what I grab when I'm drawing. And they come out like that. I mean, you can go across the board of all my styles and you can point out the, the same palette in all of them. And that's, I don't know, it baffles me. I'm slightly red green colorblind, but I mix my own colors, so I've never had a problem with it. But like something like that actually went to a museum in South Dakota, and you know, I have the Tylosaur bones. I have the description on the length of it, and then, you know, finding a T-Rex, and of course the positions, the poses, and everything are insane to find. So I got a Frankenstein a lot of my poses. You know, you find the skeletons of different T-Rexes in the museums, and you go off of them, and then you just flesh it out, and then you create it. You know, you create the environment just by a lot of research on what was living at the time, and I try to be as accurate as I possibly can, not being a paleontologist, or I don't really consider myself a paleo designer or illustrator, just because when I do drawings, I tell a story. I don't I don't let the scientific accuracy determine what I have to do. I try to get it as accurate as I can. I put it in the placement as much as the research that I know it's in the environment, and I just go there. But all of my work is based on telling a story first and foremost.
I'll say I've heard some comic book artists who kind of say things like that. They'll say, you know, they run into a fan who says, well, in this panel, you drew this guy shooting this weapon at this person. And he's like, and that's inaccurate. It would not, the guy would not be standing. The gun would have gone off in his hand or something.
Yeah,
it's like, that's great, but we're entertaining people and we're entertaining ourselves. So
exactly. And if I wanted to be critiqued in that aspect, I would be, you know, illustrating, you know, for a scientific magazine or whatever. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to paint the subjects in the environment that I want to see them in, you know, and luckily I've been lucky enough to have people who like it, you know, and interested in it.
it still finds an audience.
Yeah, one way or another. And if it doesn't, then it sits here behind me and it becomes part of my collection. Or, you know, someday I may go, okay, hey, you want a Christmas present? Here you go, take it. Because I get tired of looking at it. You know, it needs a home.
So I know that you've done a lot of museum work. How did that even start? Did you start drawing dinosaurs and then they contacted you, or like?
I have always been interested in dinosaurs and paleo stuff and everything. And probably about 8 years, I think it's about 8 years ago, one guy again asked me to do a commission of the fossils that he finds in New York. And so I drew a picture of all the ones that he finds in New York. Well, it sort of went from there. Then I got a hold of a really great friend, paleontologist in South Dakota, and he opened a museum, and then of course, he liked my work, so I started doing pieces for him that he had. So like he just dug up about 3 years ago. He found the largest tylosaur, most complete largest tylosaur ever found, and so I started working with that, and I would flesh his fossil out and then put it in a scene with that T-Rex, and then he puts it in his museum. So been very fortunate in that aspect. So I don't do a lot of museums, but anymore, a lot of people want digital art that is very accurate and very quick, and I'm not quick. I'm 3 to 9 months usually for a turnaround. So
I'm like, I love going to museums. I always say, like, to my friends and family, like, I will out museum you. Like, it
Yep.
doesn't matter what kind of museum, like, I will out museum you out of anyone. And there are times that I've been to like natural history museums, or like we a couple years back took a trip to the South, and there's a lot of dinosaur museums down there.
Yep.
And I was so blown away that like the dinosaur museums that we went to had such better art, you
Yeah,
know, because you have to make that connection that you don't have anything but bones,
yeah, no, you really don't. Or you have other artists that have come before you, and I'll research all the artists that I can find, and I never copy anything, but you look at it and you see how they did it. You see, what environment they placed it in. You may get an idea of, well, it didn't eat this kind of ammonite, or it did, or whatever. And then that's how you go and build your own artwork. People have already done it. Now, when it comes to things that are new species or whatever that you have no clue, that's, a lot of my stuff takes artistic license. I mean, it's just like, tell me it's wrong. I mean, if it's not in the research that other people that know, if it's not in there, then you can't say it's right or wrong. It's all subjective. So I try to get it as far as what is out there that's known. I try to do that, but then the rest of it, you just fill it in with whatever you feel is most accurate. So
just love it so much. And then this was your current piece for.
yeah, that's which side? I'm backwards here. No, other side. It's that big one. So that's still the piece itself is finished, but I'm still working on the frame.
So let's see, is there a little bit larger one with the whole I might have you just like pointed, but like this is
that's working on. That's a work in progress. The one that you were on was probably the finished.
There's one.
Yeah, if you can see that. It's sort of, I always wanted to do a mermaid, and I just got frustrated because I was thinking typical mermaid. And that's when sort of going back to where I'm saying I'm trying to get more, I'm trying to stay unique. I'm trying to look at different perspectives. And I'm like, well, just because she's a mermaid doesn't mean she has to be pretty, So, I'm big H.P. Lovecraft fan, and 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Jules Verne. And so I sort of incorporated in my style. I never try to copy anything, but I will do something, my version of it. Because I mean, who wants to see the same thing that somebody else has already created? So yeah, she's, sort of a squid type mermaid, and she's destroyed the Nautilus, sort of the submarine, and you got the guy's severed head, and another elasmosaur coming in to pick off the last bits of people. So, that's completely over the top, and I did this when I had the idea of the frame in my head, and I never ask people's thoughts on my art, but for some reason I have a handful of great artist friends, and I all asked them, what should I do? Should I do this? And the majority of them said, no, don't do the frame like that. It's going to take away from the art. Keep it simple. And right then I knew, screw that, I'm going to do it. So, because to me, it's just like, it doesn't take away from the art. It adds to the adventure of the piece. It adds to it. So, I mean, that just has the metal looking panels on it, sort of mimic the submarine. But then I've incorporated some portholes, and I have tentacles coming out, and I have the little parasitic male that's attached to her. He's on the frame, and it's just, it's just a god awful behemoth of crap. You know what I mean? But it's just like, that's the coolest thing to me. That right there is the epitome of my own art. There's no line that you should or shouldn't cross, because I mean, why is it going to take away from it? It's part of it. I mean, if I drew a nice little mermaid on the beach or whatever, yeah, I may put just a simple frame on it, but she ain't pretty. So, why be safe?
So, I mean, like you own Artistic Indulgence.
Me and my wife do. Yep.
And like the we had conversations about framing.
Yep.
And like I've always appreciated when you bring in your art. I'm like, yeah, look at you, framer. Like you got the best frames ever that make it so neat, and like where they become a piece of art too, you know?
And that's how we frame. We frame to they always say you don't want, and I agree, you don't want to see the frame over the art. Maybe not in necessarily my work, but if somebody brought something in to frame, you don't want to see the frame over the artwork. But the way I want to say that we do it is I try to find something to enhance the art, to keep it going, as opposed to just putting a black frame on it. So it's always something to enhance it, in my view. And then of course people say, no, I don't want that, that's too much. And I'm okay with that. I'll do how you want, but this is how I would have done it. But that doesn't matter, because you're looking at it, not me. Sorry, I didn't delete. Yeah, well.
So would you mind, I don't know if everyone like that we've talked to, like they may not have had a chance, like this is the benefit of like doing these art conversations, is that like they may not have been able to like see your shop and like know that you are a framer and like what that means. And like we had a conversation about framing and like framing in Minnesota, and like even being an artist and realizing the extra costs that
Yep.
go into framing, like this piece here, like when you said like you've been working on different perspectives, and I was like, God, yes, like of course, like that's I think one of the things that draws me to your art so much is because it's not typical,
Good.
like you're definitely going into like things where like even if you're walking by, like you kind of have to take a second and like even like I'm sitting here and like looking at this piece, and I realized I started shifting just a little bit to like kind of like work with it. You know what I mean? Like, where are we going? Satanic goat man, like
yeah, and it evolves. It evolves as I'm working on it. I mean, he was, God, how would I say that? He was supposed to be down below her, and then I thought of his forked tongue, and of course it ended up where it is. But it's always evolving, and that sort of changed a little bit of it. But just taking something that is known like Baphomet, and I read all about it and where it originally came from and stuff, and I'm like, do I really want to not educate people, but go from the perspective of not necessarily, it didn't necessarily come out of something satanic and everything, go that route? No. Why do I want to do that? I don't want to reinvent the wheel, but I do want to have something a little more unique or different in the aspect of what I'm trying to do. And that's where it comes into, I do my version of it. And whether or not it's right, wrong, or whatever, it's my version, and nobody can say, well, he didn't do that or whatever. Well, in my world, he did, you know, so, I mean, without sounding to be like the asshole artist, but, you know, so, yeah, but that one actually, the 5 negative spaces from point to point, that one's not finished also. I need to incorporate a different design in each of those negative spaces with another upside down pentagon frame around it. But I'm at a loss right now on what to do.
So when you have more odd shaped pieces
Yep.
like this, like framing wise, does this become a huge chore?
Oh, it's a pain in the ass. But like I said, you know, and that's where I don't know if it's stubbornness or whatever, but I guess I could get online and figure out the angles and all that shit. No, I get it. I cut out a template after it's done, and I just put my frame down and I cut where I think the angle's at, and I try to work it together, and I just work on that one angle until I got it. Which it sounds like, why would you do that? Just look it up. Well, you know, that's part of the fun too, you know, and that's how it's trial and error. And that's how I learn a lot of things. And then, you know, you find that angle and you just go around 5 times and there it is, you know. So it's not as, I don't want to say it's not as hard as it looks, but you know, it's not rocket science either, you know, so. But yeah, you gotta, and because last year's Gods and Monsters show, I did an inverted cross, and I'm like, well, I have to do a pentagram to work with that. So that's where that came from.
This is one of your paintings.
Yeah, that's acrylic.
And I think so far we've only seen the colored pencil, right?
I used to be an acrylic artist, and I did wildlife, highly detailed and all this shit. And I just didn't want to do it anymore. And I have since discovered I can't. I've tried to do acrylic a couple of times and I'm like, no, forget this. Don't change what you know. So I went back to colored pencil, but sometimes I need something loose. So all of my, what I call my zombie pieces, or I do the same style, and what I call my music or my jazz pieces, it's all done by palette knife. So it's just real thick and it's put on and it's loose, and I can, you know, do one in 30, 40 minutes easily. You know, it takes longer for the paint to dry than it does to execute it. But yeah, that's one of my zombie pieces.
I really like
and that sort of came from, you know, acrylic pour was all the rage and sort of still is. And I said, well, I got to try that. And that's where I never liked it when it's just that. I'm like, you know, and some artists do it and that's what they do. That's great. But I needed it. I said, that'll make a cool background. So then I started doing my infected series, and that's what I call all these with the pour. And then I just do my zombies on top of it.
So there's the cross that Mike mentioned. So those are very different than your drawings.
Yes,
you know, like,
they're very loose. And when I can't stand, you know, sometimes I get to a point where I'm just tired of detail. And I just, you know, and I'll sit there and pump out 3 or 4 of them, you know, but then again, you know, I also have to have my fix in between seasons of The Walking Dead. So I got to have my zombies. So, you know, so I pump out a few of those. So
I think that like sometimes artists forget that you get to experiment in whatever you want.
Yeah.
Like not everything has to be a masterpiece every single time you sit down. Like you can.
And don't be scared you're going to screw it up.
Yep.
Who cares? You know, I mean, paint over it.
Because there's battery operated erasers.
That's right.
Blown away.
And see, that's a good thing. I sort of freak people out, you know, because I'll have this finished piece, and I'll talk to one of my paleontologist friends, and they're like, the eye isn't big enough. And so, you know, yeah, okay, I get my thrills, you know, and I video it and I say, okay, everybody. And I sit there and I erase this perfect eye, you know, and everybody's like freaking out and shit. It's all about shock value. And then, you know, you just draw it back, you know, and it looks better than it did the first time. So.
And again, even though that this isn't a star pain in the ass to frame?
Yeah, well, yeah, it all depends on the frame molding too. So I get a lot of fallout, blowout when I cut it. But as an artist, I'll fill it in with filler and paint over it. I'm not, if it was a customer's, I may take a little bit more time and make it perfect. But that's pre-blood right there. I had to incorporate the razor blades and the candy corn.
See, I just like all of this, I mean, like anytime that you bring a piece to like the Otherworldly Arts Collective, like I'm always really excited because you're gonna have the best frame. Like you just win because you're the framer, and like you're gonna have the best frame. And it's like, being an artist, like that's sometimes you're already trying to make that deadline, like trying to get your art ready to go for the
Yep.
show. But like framing is part of the process for you.
Yeah, it's definitely part of the art. I mean, the sea witch, as I call her, because I don't know. John was giving me shit about my paragraph long titles.
Yes.
I don't always remember what she's called, so I call her the sea witch. But yeah, it's just like, and then that's when I sent it in. I'm like, well, I'm not even really done with the frame, but who the hell's gonna know? But yeah, no, it's part of the art, and I have to, that's the largest colored pencil piece that I've done before.
That looks like a beast.
Yeah, that took me a year to do. That's for the museum in South Dakota. So that was crazy.
Yeah, we have like 10 minutes left. I realize that like Mike has so much to look at that like I really like if you guys get a chance to, and I realize that there's comments and Mike and I will take a glance through. We're kind of having some technical difficulties with it. But you have so much that's available to like look at. So like there's also sorry for all my,
And all of these are available. Just so you know, if I have it in house, it's available. So
and if you have your own framing needs, like support your local framer friends.
yeah.
Just saying.
And I get it. It's expensive. It's expensive to frame, but if it's done right, you never have to do it again unless your tastes change. But I'll always work with artists. We offer an artist discount. But if you're an artist that works in canvas or something like that, I wouldn't even frame it. We've lost sales by things that we have framed in the past because the customer loves the art, but they don't like the frame, and they can't understand that you can take the frame off. So, to save money as a starving artist, if you don't have to, I wouldn't frame it. But that's just my opinion.
Now, on the other side of that, being from like the gallery producing side, I will say that when people bring in like flimsy, loose pieces of paper, we don't like it. Only
Correct.
because
Yeah.
it's going to get ruined.
Yeah, it needs to be hangable. The ones that bring in the pastel drawing without glass. You know what I mean? It's just like, no, you can't. So
Presentation makes up so much of the art and its character. So
it does. It finishes it off and it enhances it. And there's ways of doing it without taking away from the art.
Mike, I'm going to take 1 second here.
Sure.
In her house in the black seas of infinity,
Yes.
she who is woken from dreams.
Yes.
Yeah, that's your title.
If you read Cthulhu, that is out of that. I sort of changed the her from him, but I wanted to incorporate something having to do with sort of Lovecraftian ideas. But yeah, and then like the Baphomet, shattering the veil, a fleshly union of arcane perfection. When I was doing research, that's something Crowley said about Baphomet. Sort of, I don't go word for word, but I incorporate it in there. I just think titles give another realm of the artwork. People say, well, let people make up their own mind. Well, it's my art. I did it with my view. So, why not make you work for the title too,
Yeah. I'll say for the other artists, I can't tell you not to do what Mike does. It does trip up a label maker.
There you go.
Maybe a gallery owner won't call you back later, but
they'll just make a label. The label will only be about, an 8x10 full sheet of paper,
it definitely is a unique approach. So
yeah. Thank you.
A little inside baseball is that John does a lot of our, does almost 100% of our graphic design and label makings, and he cuts them and like other things. But a conversation that happens quite frequently in the gallery is, why is this misspelled, John? And he's like, that's how the artist spelled it. I don't know if it's like the thing.
Okay, having said that, and I'm not, the first one there, the head with the kid, Stingy Jack, and it's just desserts, and everybody gives me shit because it's spelled deserts, but if you go and you look up just desserts, it's spelled Old English is D-E-S, not double S. So, or they think it's Stingy Jack. It comes from an Irish myth about where jack-o'-lanterns came from. They used to make them out of turnips, and those are freaky as all hell, which was great. But I wanted something to sort of, and the devil's exaltation is a play on the myth of Stingy Jack and the devil having a conversation, and he's trying to come back to life and all this. Don't quote me on it, look it up. So, but yeah, there's reasoning behind my fucked up art. It's not just, I don't just throw something on there. There is something a little bit deeper there, hopefully.
So we're almost at the end of our time, but during the pandemic right now, if like people have questions or they want to come and like talk to you about something, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Facebook. That's the easiest. Just message me on Facebook. I have it up every day just because that's where I get a lot of my commissions. That's where I promote my art, and it's up all the time. If you're local, come by the shop. We're in Thorpe Building on Central Avenue behind Diamond's Coffee Shop. So I'm here regular hours, Tuesday through Saturday. Given, of course, we're off the 24th through the 4th, but yeah, anything, I don't care. I'll talk to you.
And if people wanted to maybe like talk to you about framing, because like I mean, even you and I, we had a conversation about framing and how much I realize I don't know, and like if I wanted to call the shop or send you a message about framing, or
yeah, you can do that. Messenger, again, completely fine. We do have an artistic indulgence page. You can do it that way, or you could just come in. It doesn't cost you anything. You don't have to set up an appointment. The only thing that's going to slow you up is if I'm with a customer at the time, but you're not locked into anything until you agree to do it. So we can pick out frames. I can give you an exact price, and you can say, no, I don't want to do it, and walk away. That's fine. We don't hard sell. So if you can't afford us and you want an idea of you need it framed, but you can't afford it, well, I'll give you what I think, is a route to go. You can buy pre-made frames, and we can cut a mat to make it fit in there. That'll save you some money,
which is helpful. John's right about the presentation. There have been many times that we've had artwork get damaged because it wasn't properly framed, and we ended up changing our contracts because we had a piece once that was like definitely over a 4-digit number in price, and it's like, if you can't make this easy for us, we can't take it.
I mean, I don't know. Framer, one animal, artist, a different animal. But, sometimes I I can't get over how some artists, you know, they take their art serious, but they don't take it as serious enough to protect it. So why did you go to all that trouble to make it? And I'm not going off the monetary aspect of it, that it's too expensive to do it. There are less expensive ways to protect your art, you know, to send in a pastel with no glass on it or something, you know, come on, it's going to get ruined.
Yep.
You know?
Well, thank you. I mean, like, we really appreciate, I mean, all of the artists that we've talked to and everything, like, thank you for taking the time
Sure,
to talk
thank
with
you.
us and share, you know, and like, yeah, is there anything else that you want to, I didn't forget anything, I don't think.
Not that I know of.
Okay.
No, I think you've hit pretty much on everything, you know. Me and my wife own Artistic Indulgence, and, you know, come down and check us out, I guess, you know, for art and framing.
John.
Thank you so much, Mike. I'm sorry I gave you a hard time for the title.
You got to give people a hard time. Come on. No,
Yeah, that's kind of my thing.
it's all good, you know, it's all good.
Okay. You guys have a wonderful darkest night of the year.
Yep.
Uh,
Thank you.
tomorrow.
And thank you for allowing me this opportunity.
We need you. We need your art. Just don't stop making art. That's all I want you to just
Well, you know,
promise me that.
I was thinking about giving it up, you know, but I don't.
No.
No, I don't think I could if I had to.
Okay. Well, you have a nice night.
Yep.
And good night, everybody. And we'll see you in a couple weeks with another artist conversation. And definitely go say hello to Mike.
Yep,
And
I'm here anytime.
the Facebook comments, I'm so sorry. Like I said, technical difficulties, but I'm sure Mike will give it a run through.
I'll go back and read them all and answer what I can.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.